All right, you guys. So, good morning. Well, not really morning. It's like 12:13, but we're going to ignore that. We're going to pretend it's morning. I am trying a new microphone today because I know my audio has been trash on my computer. So I now have headphones chilling on my keyboard. Hopefully this audio will be better and it won't cut in and out and you'll actually be able to understand me. So on my screen right now, what I have open is the 4.6 PowerPoint that is on the Econ website. So if you would like to go open that up to follow along, or you can just follow along with me and have your notebook open and taking notes, that would be awesome. I do want to apologize for this video being late. I did not realize that I didn't record one and that I didn't have much time. Well, I had time, but I didn't record one yesterday, and now I'm recording one today. I'm not gonna lie to you, motivation has been hard keeping up teaching. So if anyone understands, it's you guys. Motivation has been challenging. So right now we're going to talk about a shift in equilibrium. So we have talked about a shift in demand, a shift in supply, but we have not talked about combining the two together. So today we're going to talk about combining the two together, and we're going to talk about what an equilibrium shift looks like. So if you want to follow along on the PowerPoint, cool. If not, I completely understand. I would take notes then definitely while you're going through this. So first, we're going to go through all the examples. If demand increases, what happens to the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity? So right now, we are still looking at, we're assuming that everyone knows what the shift is. We are assuming at this point that you should know what a demand shift increase looks like, what a demand decrease looks like in the shift, so on and so forth. Same with supply. If you don't, go back and review your notes. So right now we're going to look at if demand increases, what happens to the equilibrium price and quantity. So before we just looked at the shift and we just said whether demand increased or decreased, and that was it. We didn't really talk about the price portion of this graph, or the Q portion of the graph, and that's what's coming in today, are the prices and quantities at the equilibrium. So when you have both of the lines on the graph, supply line and demand line, there is an equilibrium spot, which is shown in the graph right here. And we label it as PE, price equilibrium, and QE, quantity equilibrium. But the thing is whenever you shift, it doesn't matter. You can shift a supply line or a demand line, and it's going to shift the equilibrium point, because right now the equilibrium point is exactly in the middle. Remember, our equilibrium point is our happy spot. It's where we want to be. It's where economists say the perfect amount of our economy will be working, and all suppliers are happy, all consumers are happy, so on and so forth. This is an extremely hard point to get to, and rarely do economies get to this point at all. So to show a demand increase, you move it to the right. Now, when you move a line, you have to make sure to label that line as your second line. So if you go and move from D1, you got to make sure you're labeling the line to D2, so that when you're doing this on a test or in your notebook, when you go back to look at it, you don't get confused and think, okay, well, which way is the line moving again? You want to make sure you have it labeled. So when the demand increases, the line shifts to the right. The price, the new equilibrium dot is going to go, if you follow my mouse, right here. So we're moving from right here up to here. So the supply line didn't shift, the demand line shifted. However, it's a change in both price, equilibrium price, and equilibrium quantity. So the price, when demand increases, price is going to increase, as well as quantity is going to increase. So what you'll notice is with demand, price and quantity increase or decrease together. So they'll always go the exact same way when it comes to demand and when we shift the demand. So price will increase, quantity will increase. Perfect. Shows P up, Q up. It's how we show it on our sheets or on our activities we do. Okay, demand decreases is going to move to the left. Price is going to fall. You can see the equilibrium came down from here to here. And price is going to fall, as well as quantity is going to fall. So remember, we're talking about demand, we're talking about consumers. When you're talking about a demand increase and we're moving it up, if the price goes up, the quantity supplied will go up and there'll be more available. Demand decrease, demand goes down, the price is going to decrease, and the quantity available is going to decrease because the price is low, more people are buying it. And with the increase, the price goes up, less people are buying it, so there's more quantity available. Okay. Supply increase is a little bit different. When supply increases, it moves to the right. And you can see it moves from right here to right here. Now, this one's a little bit different. So price for suppliers, price is going to go down, but the quantity is going to go up. And that's going to be the new equilibrium price. Price down, quantity up. Supply decrease is going to, if there's a decrease in supply, it's going to cause the price to rise and have less of a quantity available. If the price decreases of something that goes into our supply, we're going to be able to supply more of it. So it's a supply increase. So a supply decrease is price going up, quantity going down, because we have to pay more for the item. So, and price up, quantity down. So here are the steps to analyze a change in equilibrium. So these are the steps you're going to take when you're working on the activity market. Let me remind myself what it's called because I am having a moment. The market equilibrium headline activity, I believe it's called. So the steps to analyzing change in equilibrium, the first thing you're going to do is you are going to decide if it is a supply shift or a demand shift. And this is where it gets a little bit difficult because you have to actually decide which one it is. Instead of someone telling you, hey, this is a supply shift, hey, this is a demand shift, you have to know, okay, is this supply, is this demand? I highly recommend using your tigers and your tires analogies when you're going through this because it is going to be extremely helpful when reading through these examples. If you are sitting with one of these and you're like, Miss Nelson, I have absolutely no idea if it's supply or demand, run through every single one of these letters for both of them and ask yourself, okay, could this be technology? Could this be because of a natural disaster? Could it be government intervention? So on and so forth. Make sure that you are trying to think through all of the examples. What is the reason for the shift? So after you decide, okay, it's a supply shift or okay, it's a demand shift, then you have to decide, okay, which of the letters in tires or tigers is the reason for the said shift? Why is it shifting? That will help you in determining which way supply or demand, depending on which one you're using, is going to go. Draw and label the curve on your graph. Here's the thing. I know that we are doing this online. I know that this looks a lot different than if we were doing it in class. But my biggest piece of advice, and the one thing I will ask you if you ever email me that you're having issues with this, that you're having a hard time understanding it, I will straight up ask you, are you graphing it? If you are not graphing the examples or putting graphs as examples in your notebook, then that's the first thing I'm going to tell you to do. It helps so much to graph it. During class, whenever I have somebody come up to me during Unit 4, I'd always have students go up and say, okay, I thought it was this, but it ended up being this. Why? And I look at them and I'll say, did you graph it? And they'll look at me and say, most of the time, like 90% of the time, no, I didn't graph it. So then I'll take out my piece of paper. I always have index cards with me. I'd take out an index card and I'd write a graph on there and I'd say, okay, demand, supply, where does it go, so on and so forth. Okay, which one are we moving? The visual helps to show them what they were looking for. If you don't have a visual, it's really hard to see it in your mind and you can flip it around a lot. If I, myself, don't have a visual for supply and demand, I will screw it up as well. There have been many of these that I have messed up in class, and then I draw it out and realize, oh my gosh, I made the same mistake I tell my students not to make. You need to be drawing out these graphs. If you don't know how to draw these graphs out, you need to learn that portion of it, okay? I cannot stress that enough. You need to draw and label graphs. You need to graph, okay? And then you need to locate where the new equilibrium is gonna go. Show me where the new equilibrium is gonna go, okay? Okay, let's practice. I'm gonna do these practices with you, and you can pause throughout this, go back, rewatch, whatever. You know the drill, how videos work. So, okay. The first example we're gonna look at, okay. Nation's largest spaghetti producer cuts pasta prices. Remember, always look at the title of the graph. It is really hard to determine if it's supply or demand if you don't know the title to the graph. You have to know the title of the graph for this to make any sense at all. Same with on the activities we're doing. Where is my example one? Right here. Same with these activities. You have to know what the title of the graph is. If you don't know what the title of the graph is, you're out. You're basically guessing from the beginning. So if we're talking about pasta prices going up or going down, producers cut pasta prices. The prices of pasta is going down. Okay, what effect is that going to have on spaghetti sauce? Well, what is spaghetti sauce to pasta? If you said a complement, you're correct. So it's a related good, it's a complement. So we know that a related good complement is on the tires, which means that it is a demand shift. So we would record on our sheet, if we had our sheets out like this, sorry, mine's filled out already, so ignore that. But we would fill in here, we'd be headline, write the headline, pasta prices go down. What curve, where does it go? Demand, what's the shift? It'd be an R related goods complement. You do the little graph dealy here, and then you put whether the price went up or down. Okay. So which way is the demand line going to shift? If there's a cut in pasta prices, what is going to happen to the demand for sauce? Demand for pasta sauce is going to increase. If there's a cut in the price of pasta, then more people are going to demand it because it costs less money. So the spaghetti sauce would increase. So it would move to the right. And remember, when you're drawing this in your notebook, draw the line, draw D2 on there. Maybe draw the arrows going. You do you, okay? All right. You know what? I'm going to do this example with you to show you what I mean by this. So, if I am drawing supply, demand. Okay, if this is my graph right here, can you see that? Yeah, this is my graph right here. And I'm moving demand to increase. I will use pink this time to make it less confusing. You need to make sure that you label it something different. If you have different colored markers, I know students have found that that's helpful in the past. I think that's helpful, but if you only have a pen, you can do it that way too. But just make sure you're labeling it so you know where the line's moving. So, okay, great. Then you want to figure out where the new equilibrium is. So you're following the new line to where the new spot is on the graph for equilibrium. So equilibrium has now shifted to the right with the demand, okay? So this shows that price actually goes up, as it shows on the graph, and quantity goes up. So price and quantity both increase. Because if the price of because if there's a cut in pasta prices, then more people are going to want to buy spaghetti sauce, which means equilibrium is going to go up because the quantity demanded is going to increase, which just automatically causes suppliers to charge more because they can. All right. Sub-zero temperatures destroy much of Florida's citrus crop. And the title of the graph is orange juice. Okay. Now, remember, the first thing you have to do, supply or demand? Which one? Looking over your tigers, looking over your tires, I recommend you pause the video right here so that you can go look through your notes and come up with an answer before I tell you, because yes, I can tell you the answers, but you don't learn as well unless you try yourself. This one would be a decrease in the supply. It would be supply because a natural disaster or weather phenomenon caused this, which means that it is the eye of the tiger, which in class I would break out into song, but I'm not going to do that here. Okay, maybe a little bit. It's the eye of the tiger, it's the thrill of the fight, rising up, singing, hearing my rivals. Okay, good enough. So, supply is going to decrease because temperatures destroy the citrus crop. If you don't know anything about citrus, if it gets too cold, citrus dies. Citrus needs warm. So what's going to happen in the market for orange juice? We're going to assume that citrus is an orange and there's going to be less of it available, which means the supply of orange juice is going to go down. There's not going to be as much orange juice available. So the line is going to shift to the left. Remember, when you graph it, make sure that you are labeling, okay? So when it shifts to the left, what happens to price, the equilibrium price, and what happens to equilibrium quantity? So just look at the graph really quick and look at the spot that's already has the dotted lines going towards it. Where is the new dot going to be? If you said right here, you're correct. And that's going to cause the price to increase, and that's going to cause the quantity to decrease because we can't supply as much as a company. So we're going to automatically raise prices in order to meet the demand for the orange juice. So price goes up and quantity goes down. All right. Farmer invents new picking machine, harvests apples in half of the time. And the graph title is Red Delicious Apples. Again, go look at your sheet. Decide if it is demand or supply. Tigers or tires. So, it is supply. And it is supply because of new technology. So it's the T in tigers. A new technology was invented to be able to pick the apples in half of the time. And remember, if you look at your notes, the T in tigers always increases the supply. It never decreases the supply. If technology were to decrease the supply, we wouldn't implement that new technology. It can only help the situation. So supply would increase, so it would move to the right. We can pick more apples in half of the time. We don't need to pay people as much money because they're doing it in half of the time, because we are using less of our resources in order to pick apples, so on and so forth. So the price would go down for Red Delicious apples because we can do it quicker and get more product out there. So then the quantity will increase because we can pick more if we want to. So the line would shift to the right and price equilibrium would decrease and quantity equilibrium would increase. So the big takeaway from all of this is not that we are, is not that we're shifting the line. That's just part of getting to the answer. The shifting of the line is just part of our equation at this point. That's not the final answer. The final answer is where the price moves and where the quantity moves. That's your final answer, okay? Last one. This one is a little bit confusing, so I am going to walk you through this. Colorado Ski Resorts announces a 50% increase in lift ticket prices. So, what's going to happen to hotel rooms at the Colorado ski resorts? So, okay. If there is an increase in lift ticket prices, okay, how is that going to affect ski resorts? Most people who go to ski resorts to ski. If we increase the lift ticket prices by 50%, what is going to happen to the rooms? So it's going to be demand. Yes, it's going to be demand. And if I am remembering properly, all right, it is a complement. So ski resorts are complements to lift ticket prices. So it again would be our complement complementary resource. Girl, yeah. Anyways, sorry, English. So the price would end up decreasing, price equilibrium would decrease, and quantity equilibrium would decrease. We wouldn't be supplying as many rooms because there's the demand for it. And the price would also go down because we aren't having as many people stay there, so we wouldn't be making as much money. So that is where that would go. And it shows price decrease, price decrease. Okay, so I know that this is a little bit more confusing and that this is not as simple as the other ones we've been doing, but it's just putting it all together and it's wrapping your mind around how all of this works. So please let me know if you have any questions. Go ahead and send me an email. Let me know if you guys need anything else from me. If you just want to chat, email me. It's up to you, but I will talk to you guys later and I hope you're having a good day, weekend, wherever you're watching.